What? Me? Gobbling up human beings? Ooh. Oh, all the others, yes, but not me. No, I is a nice giant. I is a freaky giant. There's not another giant like me in all the giant country. I is the big, friendly giant. The BFG, the 1989 version, is directed by Brian Cosgrove. It stars David Jason and Amanda Root, and is my review of this film leading up to Spielberg's BFG, which is out now. That review will be coming very soon. But let's get talking about, personally, one of my favourite animated films. So we all know the story. A young girl named Sophie, who lives in an orphanage, is suddenly taken away, or kid-snatched, as it's mentioned, by a mysterious giant figure in the night, and of course she believes him to be a monster. Actually, he turns out to be a very nice, kind-hearted giant who lives in giant country, populated by 9 other giants who are murderous, man-eating monsters. 3 M's. And is based off of the Roald Dahl book. Now, this film was actually, the people who were making this film were actually quite scared to make this film because of how Roald Dahl was not a fan of film adaptations of his books. If you don't know this, brace yourself, he absolutely hated the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka film. I know, but it's true. He really disliked it with a passion. And of course, Brian Cosgrove, the director of this film, was really afraid of making this film because he didn't want to upset Roald Dahl. And so when he screened it to the family, he was stood right by the door, as if it angered Roald Dahl. He could just make a run for it. Watch the interview. If you own the film, especially if you own the Blu-ray, check out the interview. It's actually a really interesting interview and reveals quite a bit. So anyway, how is this film? I was curious to see how it held up, because this is a childhood favourite of mine. I have watched this film more times than I can even count, and I was curious to see how it holds up, because you know how childhood classics of yours might not always be the greatest of films, but you don't really know that, because when you're younger, films are this amazing thing, and you can't really separate a good film from a bad film. So I was really curious to see how this film held up. And of course, it still is, to this day, one of my favourite animated films, and also one of my favourite films. This film is just the definition of a likeable, warm-hearted, rewatchable, and endlessly entertaining film. This film, if you have not seen this film, just check it out, because it is fantastic. Also, the Blu-ray resolution holds up so well. I mean, it actually doesn't hold up. It looks really, really good on Blu-ray, and considering it came out in 1989, the picture quality is really, really good. And a lot of that is to do with Brian Cosgrove's fantastic way of directing animation, because he was previously worked on the cartoon with Danger Mouse, also starring David Jason, and the model animated version of The Wind in the Willows. I've yet to see that, but I'm really looking forward to it. Also starring David Jason. The two are good friends. They're good friends. And speaking of David Jason as the BFG is the BFG. I mean, I don't care how good Mark Rylance is going to be. He will never, no one will ever top David Jason as the BFG, because he just got everything right. Everything he did in that film was just on point, perfect. He hit every single note perfectly. It is just like, and it's amazing to watch, because he has such great energy as an actor. He's so funny. I mean, he just is funny, and he is one of the most likeable actors I've ever seen in an interview. And he really was perfect for the BFG, because because BFG has his own language, doesn't he? He has his own sort of broken kind of English, you know. And yeah, it's just, and he's fantastic. And the way he talks his BFG language, his voice sounds fluent, you know, it doesn't sound put on, it actually sounds like he actually talks like that. It's seamless in how good his voice acting is in this film, and it is quite possibly my favourite voice performance. I mean, I can't swear to it, but it is up there with Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. You know, it is one of the best voice performances ever put to film. Also as Sophie is Amanda Root. She's terrific in the film, and Sophie's such a great character. She's not afraid. She starts out very afraid, but is also really kind of, you know, she's got courage, you know, once she's faced the giants, she's not afraid of them anymore. She is a strong leading character, and her chemistry with David Jason it's beautiful. It is so good. I love the chemistry of this film, and the score. The score is so good. It's just, I mean, because it has this really great horror feel to it in a sense, because if you haven't seen this film, it is a spoiler-filled review, so spoiler warning, go ahead and watch it, and then come back and watch the rest of this review. The opening shot of this film alone lets you know you're in for something good, because it's misleading in a very clever way, and a very good way actually, because when films are misleading, it doesn't end well at all. This film is actually one of those films that is better for being misleading, because it opens up very dark. Like the portal to Giant Country, it's kind of terrifying. It's really creepy, and you see the streets of I'm not sure where it's set in the beginning. It might be London. I can't quite remember. If they mentioned it in the book, I'm not sure. But when you see like the shots of the village and, you know, all the houses and the orphanage, it's just, I mean, and it's from the perspective of the BFG, and you hear his voice in the and it's got this really kind of dark feel to it, and that is just something I loved about this film. And also it starts out really terrifying when she sees BFG for the first time, and he's walking down the street, and you hear the music build. It's almost like it's a horror film. It really does have a dark feel to it at the beginning. I mean, and this is a film that has a very dark idea. If you actually examine this storyline, you begin to think, is this really for kids? It's that dark, and that was something Roald Dahl was a genius at. He was great at taking very dark, very, you know, just very dark stories and making them child-friendly. He had a great way of doing it. He just, I mean, and he's a genius author, and yeah, he's great. Check out the book if you haven't as well, because that's got quite a bit more than the film. Yeah. Also, I mean, speaking of the opening, when he takes Sophie and he's running along the streets, one of the best running scenes ever. It's just so cool, and when he does that slide across the road, that whoosh, and then he starts running down the road, it gives me goosebumps. This entire film gives me goosebumps because of how genius it is, how amazingly well acted it is, how beautiful the writing is, and how well shot it is. It's a really great animated film, and it's fun. It's great. I mean, adults can watch this film and be endlessly entertained with it. It's not just a kids' movie. It's a really great family movie. Also, speaking of characters, Ballard Berkeley as the head of the army he is so funny, and I love his role in Fawlty Towers, and he is so funny in this film. That and that's another thing with this film. It's quotable from beginning to end. Like that opening scene, just me quoting the BFG. It's just, I could like do the rest of this review with great quotes from the film. For instance, like, it tastes disgusters. And, well, it's rotten, and I was talking to myself. You know, it's just filled with amazing quotes. It's such a great film. The writing is so good. one of the things I love about this film, and speaking of kind of, and linking back to the kind of horror aspect it has, the giants in this film still look terrifying. I mean, they look, and because this is, and it's actually something I felt the film did much better than the book. It actually improved on it, because in the book, they look like giant cavemen. In this film, because they all have the same sort of look to them, in this film they have an individual look that really makes them stand apart from each other, and you can kind of tell which one's which. You don't actually know which one's which, but you do know two of them. And, yeah, and they look terrifying, especially Flesh Lumpy with that giant long nail he has, and the one white eye and the one red eye, and oh, it's amazing. And they're all so much bigger than BFG. And the voices, Don Henderson, who voiced Blood Bottler, Flesh Lumpy, and one of the army generals, he has a great way of making his voice sound menacing. It's just, he is really, and the giants are terrifying in this film. They really are frightening. Yeah, I mean, and you cannot review this film without mentioning the Whiz Popper song. That song, I mean, and it's a song that could have been terrible. It's a scene that could have been absolutely terrible. It could have been unwatchable in how immature it could have been, but it was actually so much fun, and it's just fun to watch. And it's a farting scene, for God's sake. I mean, and that's usually kind of the lowest form of comedy, and yet it's so funny because of the song BFG sings, and just how it's such an innocent film. It's so warm and inviting, and it really sucks you into this world. It's so well done, this film. I cannot think of many problems with this film. There are a few minor nitpicky issues, like there's one shot where BFG's floating into Giant Country through that like sparkly portal, and he's saying something, but you don't see the mouth move. Now that might have been a slight animating problem, but it's like 2 seconds long, if not 4 seconds long. Who gives a shit? I mean, really. It's just one of these films you don't question because of how great it is. Like, the flaws in this film are just, they're not that noticeable. They really aren't. It's like you have to nitpick this film, like literally pick it apart, like with like a little needle. You have to like scrape it away and stuff like that. And who's going to do that to a family film? Who's going to do that to a Roald Dahl story? Whoever you are, if you have done that, just go away. Just go away. Yeah. This film is a fantastic film. It is just filled with so many great scenes, like Dream Country. Dream Country has such a bedazzling look. It's so beautiful, and the song choices and just the music. Everything in this film is note perfect. It is so perfect. And the thing that I really hate the most is how underrated it is. And I know it was straight to video at its time, but barely anyone talks about this anymore. Like, I think I've seen one review, maybe two, of this film on YouTube. None of the critics ever seem to talk about this. Leading up to the new BFG film, no one's made even the slightest mention of this film. And I've really wanted to see people review it. And so I thought, I'm going to be the one to review it. And yeah, if you have not seen the BFG, check it out. It is one of my all-time favourite films. It's just fantastic. Just go and watch it now. As soon as you finish this review, go to your local DVD store, pick it up on DVD, or go to Amazon or whatever website, and just pick up the film. Don't pirate copy it. Don't get a pirate. Watch the authentic film and check out the interview with Brian Cosgrove. It looks fantastic. It is a really interesting interview, and it revealed quite a bit about this film, actually. Yeah. So all in all, I am going to give the BFG an A star. My highest grade to one of my favourite films. Guys, thank you so much for watching. You have been the greatest. I mean, I'm just glad I have subscribers now, because I've been inspired by loads of YouTube reviewers, to start talking about, and I'm a huge film fan, and I feel I should give you my opinion on film content, because I love hearing other people's opinions. If you have seen this film, let me know what you thought in the comments below. I want to see endless comments about this film. Because of how underrated it is, I want to hear everything there is to hear about what people think of this film. Go bananas with it, okay? Thank you so much for watching, and as I say before, and always will say, Phantom Film Buff